Hi, I'm Helen from Crafty Bunnies, and today I want to bring you a technique using Versamark ink. This card has been created with the small stamps from this Bloom and Grow stamp set, and I have stamped them all over the background of this crumb cake card using Versamark, which creates a watermark effect. It basically means that you're stamping with what's effectively a clear ink that's quite sticky, and it gives a darker tone of the colour underneath. And so it's really good for creating backgrounds or utilising on card colour where you might not have an ink that goes with it, or you just haven't bought the ink yet, which makes it very useful. So that's one of my examples. I have another example here in which I have combined two stamps. This one I've used in a peacock colour, and then these splots on the background I've used in Versamark to create the watermark effect, and just highlighting that crumb cake card again. And to show you what it looks like on a natural colour, here I've Versamarked on this blue these flowers, again just to create more texture and a nice pale effect, again which goes with the background of my card. So today we are going to make one very similar to this using a blue colour. So I have my background card base. This is in Blueberry Bushel, and it's a standard C6 card base, which if you're cutting it from A4 cardstock is just the width of the A4 cardstock, which is 21 centimetres, and the height is 14.85, and you've scored along here at 10.5 centimetres. I've chosen two stamps. I've chosen a leaf, and this one that looks more like it's got a few berries on the back. And I'm just going to take my Versamark ink, and I'm going to start by just taking it in turns to stamp each stamp all over the base of the card at random intervals, making sure I've covered the edge and filled in any desirable gaps. And I'm going to do this all over the back of my card. I now have the majority of my card covered in stamps. I like to ensure that I've stamped in from the edges as well, because it gives it a more complete look, and it really doesn't matter how you've positioned things, because the whole idea is that you're going to get a quite, you're looking for a random finish overall, and you can just fill in any gaps that you see. And it's always a good idea when you're trying to do a background is to start from one corner, and if you've got more than one stamp, then to alternate the stamps and head up to the opposite corner, and then that way you're filling in as you go, so you don't end up, if you do it randomly with one stamp and then try and fill in with the other, there's always a gap that's a little bit too small for a stamp but ends up being bigger than you want, and it looks a bit obvious. So at this point, if you wanted to heat emboss, which we'll cover another time, this is the point in that you would heat emboss your card, but I like it just as it is, so I'm just going to move on from there. I then have a white label that I have die cut out from the, I can't remember the name of the stamp set, but they're these lovely stitched shapes which are elongated hexagons, and I'm going to stamp my greeting on here in the same as the background colour card, which is Blueberry Bushel. The aim of this card too was to do something nice and simple. So I'm going to line this up with these two edges because I'm going to snip that edge off. I'm just going to stamp it in the middle. Nice and delicate. And that is that. And then just using my snips, or you could use a paper trimmer, I'm just going to cut up from one corner to the other, and then that will be ready to go on my card up there. But I'd like a little bit of decoration underneath, so I'm going to punch out a couple of leaves I have this leaf punch here, and this is Pear Pizzazz cards. You can see I've been making a few things with this recently. So I'm going to have one of those in Pear Pizzazz. And then I'm going to use this sprig punch, which I also really love. These are so handy. And I'm going to cut one of those too. And that's in a slightly darker colour of Old Olive. And they're going to go together. And then just to add a little bit of texture, I'm going to add another one, because things look nice in threes, in vellum in the first stamp to go over the top. So effectively I've decided that I'm making a kind of a sprig underneath my label. So that's approximately where my label wants to be, so I know whereabouts my leaves want to be. And I'm going to use one of these large glue dots. I'm going to place it on my card. And I'm just going to glue my leaves on. They stick nicely onto these glue dots, which is handy. And then that one, where do I want it? I think that one just wants to be slightly over the top. And then I've got this lovely gold twine, and I'm just going to cut a small section of that. I'm going to fold it into, just pinch the end. I'm going to take another slightly smaller glue dot. Oh. Love a glue dot, these are so useful. And I'm just going to stick that in over the top. Now I've made it a little bit longer than I wanted. As you can see, this end is already starting to fray, which is what I wanted. And this I can just untwirl a little bit more and tease out some of the ends up to the top. And then I'm going to undo the other end as well. Start to tease some of those out. And then just move it a little bit closer. See where I think. I'm going to leave the trimming of that until I'm completely happy till the end of my card. Then I'm going to glue this on with some sticky pads, which we call dimensionals at Stampin' Up, onto the back. The hexagon shape of these makes them really easy to get off the back. And then just take the coverings off those. And then I'm just going to put that on over the top there. And then I can play around with my twine a little bit more, and I'm just going to give it a little snip. It's a bit like giving it a haircut. Oh, missed a bit. I can just, the gold shows up really beautifully against this blue. And then finally, I have tied a bow out of this braided linen twine, which I hope you can see. It's got a really fine braiding detail on it. Now you can, again, you can leave the ends nice and crisp, or this again undoes like this, this gold thread if you wanted a more rusticy look. But I've literally just tied a bow in it, and I'm just going to add that onto my card with a glue dot as a finishing detail in that bottom corner. And that's that. So as you can see, we've made a really nice simple card with very little tools, very little equipment, and the real highlight here is the background that you've Versamarked. So I hope you've enjoyed that and it's inspired you to either get out the Versamark you already own, or perhaps to purchase some and have a play with the stamps. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week. Bye.